Should have welcomed those who are watching us on YouTube as well. It's great to have you with us. At the moment, I'm reading a book called Let Us Dream, and it's reflections of Pope Francis in the light of COVID. And in the first chapter, there's only 3 chapters. In the first chapter, he talks about stoppages in our lives. It happens to all of us. We see now the royal family, Prince Philip has died, and that will cause them to reflect and to stop. And I bet everybody in the church today and people watching will have had moments in their lives where everything came to a halt. Again, maybe the death of someone, or the breakdown of a relationship, the loss of a job, or illness. And sometimes we take stock of everything and make changes. It can end up leading to some positive things in our lives. It can also be destructive, because we know in those circumstances sometimes people's mental health suffers or they turn to alcohol. There are dangers too. It's interesting because Pope Francis, he reflects on how it happens in the scriptures too. You know, Samson and Delilah. Why Delilah? But Samson, of course, is seduced by Delilah and she betrays him. And he's chained up and imprisoned. He loses his strength. His faith is shattered. But in that time of stoppage, for him, definitely lockdown, his faith is renewed. His strength comes back. And he destroys God's enemies. And there are other examples too, like David after Bathsheba, and Solomon for all his wisdom, turning to a material world until he too is stopped and reflects. It happens to everyone. And actually, Pope Francis is talking that in the light of COVID, we've all been forced to stop. Maybe to take stock, to review our lives, maybe to change our priorities. Those are the opportunities. But we know too also there are dangers. We see it around us or in the news with increased domestic violence, overeating, I've done that, maybe a bit too much drinking too. But the opportunity is there and with us to look at our lives and say, well, actually, I enjoy a bit more time for walking or to be with my family. Maybe too, we've looked at our lives in the light of our faith. I think in the gospel, they had that massive moment in their lives as disciples when everything came to a halt with the death of Jesus. And they responded in different ways. Some of them ran, others stayed close to him to the end. Some of them walked and talked and encountered the risen Lord. Some were skeptical, as we heard in the gospel today with Thomas. And eventually, all of them too were locked down in a room together, waiting, reflecting, thinking, and then transformed. Then their lives were never the same again. Because in their moment of reflection, at the center of it was Jesus. Jesus risen. Jesus and his Spirit, which enabled them to live in a new way. And that would never have happened without the death of Jesus, or without that time where they were locked down and thinking about the future in the light of the past and the risen Christ. If we're to make a positive thing out of our experience in these last 18 months, I believe it can only come about when Jesus, the risen Lord, is at the center of our reflections and our prayers. If he is It's that will make the difference. And we have a great opportunity, which Michelle's going to talk about later, when our mission comes up in a month's time, 1 week in particular, where we can put Christ at the center in the light of the things happening in our lives, and all of our lives are different, but also maybe in the light of what's happened these last 18 months. Being here today at Easter, listening to the words of Scripture, praying and receiving the Eucharist, are the model for changing our lives. Maybe this mission too will help us look and reflect a bit more deeply and to grow in faith.